The first sound came just after midnight. A slow, deliberate pacing that rolled across the Cross family's roof, like a heartbeat in the walls. Evelyn froze in bed, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, listening to each creak draw closer to the chimney. "It's just the wind," Michael murmured beside her, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Down the hall, Liam sat upright, recording on his phone, whispering, "It's back." Outside, the night was still. No branches stirring, no wind at all. Only the faint, deliberate scuff of something walking above them, heel to toe, unhurried and sentient. Then, a pause. A silence so complete it seemed to lean into the house, listening back. And just as Evelyn reached for Michael's hand, something scraped across the roof. A dragging sound, metal against slate, and stopped directly over their heads. By morning, the roof looked untouched. No footprints, no broken tiles, no sign that anything had moved across it at all. Michael climbed the ladder anyway, his knuckles white around the rung. "See?" he called down, forcing a grin. "Nothing." Evelyn shaded her eyes from the glare, uneasy at how the light seemed to bend oddly over the shingles, as if the surface itself remembered pressure. Inside, Liam replayed his phone, recording on loop, amplifying the soft creak, the drag of metal, the muffled pause. The sound was too heavy for a raccoon, too deliberate for wind. His mother's voice drifted from the yard, sharp, uncertain. He looked out the window just in time to see Michael staring at something near the chimney. A faint black smudge that vanished as clouds passed over. "It's just soot," Michael said too quickly. But when he came down, his hands were trembling, and there was a smear of dark residue under his nails that smelled faintly of rust and earth. That night, Evelyn insisted they leave the attic light on. "Just until we figure it out," she said. The bulb buzzed faintly, flickering over boxes and cobwebs. The air smelled of insulation and dust, yet there was something else. Wet stone, maybe, or iron. Liam positioned a small camera facing the window that looked out onto the slant of the roof. He adjusted the focus, hands steady despite the thudding of his heart. "If it comes back, we'll see it," he whispered. Hours later, the house fell into the rhythm of sleep. The ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft creak of beams shifting. Then, a new sound. A brief patter, like fingertips on glass. The attic light dimmed, once, twice. The camera lens refocused on its own, as though responding to movement unseen. And through the window pane, for a single heartbeat, something crossed, long-limbed, silent, wrong in its proportions. The footage, when played back, made Evelyn sick. The figure on the roof wasn't clear. Its body shimmered, its edges unraveling into static, but its gait was unmistakably human. Each step landed with the same heavy rhythm they'd heard that first night. Michael froze the frame, zoomed in until pixels broke apart, and said, "Could be light distortion, could be a bird." But his voice wavered. Liam leaned forward, pointing at a moment just before the figure vanished. "Look, it looks at the camera." And it did. Even through the distortion, the thing turned sharply. Its face, or where a face should be, tilting toward the lens in a motion too smooth, too fast. The camera jolted violently as if struck from the outside, and the screen went black. "It knew we were watching," Liam whispered. No one answered. The roof above them gave one slow, deliberate creak. The third night brought rain, and with it, the sound again. Slower this time, heavier, as if something drenched and patient was making its rounds above. The cameras recorded nothing. The lenses fogged inexplicably from within. Evelyn sat in the dark kitchen, clutching a cup of coffee gone cold, listening. Between the steady patter of rain came the scrape, then the drag. She whispered to herself, Please. Just go. Lightning flashed, illuminating the window for a split second. And there, framed in that instant, a shape stood atop the roof's edge, limbs crooked against the stormlight, head bowed as if listening through the glass. Then darkness swallowed it. The footsteps moved again, circling toward the chimney. Upstairs. Liam's door opened slowly, though no one touched it, and the soft whir of the attic camera began to turn on its own. By dawn, the storm had passed, but the house felt different, heavier somehow, as if the walls themselves were listening. Liam retrieved the memory cards from the attic cameras and spread them across the kitchen table beside his laptop. The family gathered close, drawn by something between dread and need. The footage began ordinary enough. Shifting clouds, dripping rain, a slow crawl of night into morning. Then, without warning, the timestamp jumped backward. Midnight again, while the same 5 seconds replayed over and over. Within those seconds, the blurred outline of the roof figure appeared, closer each time. Its form grew sharper until its head nearly filled the frame, a featureless mask of black static bending forward, as though peering into the lens. Then the feed cut out. The screen went white. The timestamp reset to 0:00. Evelyn whispered, "It filmed itself." And in that still room, no one disagreed. Michael refused to believe the footage was real. He packed the cameras into a box and drove into town, muttering that have a tech friend inspect them. But when he arrived at the electronics shop, the owner frowned at the memory cards. "These aren't formatted right," the man said, turning one in his hand. "They shouldn't even record video like this." Michael frowned. "What do you mean?" The shopkeeper slid the card into a reader. The screen filled instantly with a single image, a photograph of the Cross farmhouse taken from above, time-stamped for the following night. "That can't be right," Michael murmured, voice unsteady. The shopkeeper glanced at him uneasy. "You said this was your house?" Michael stared at the photo where something long and dark stretched across the roof. "Not anymore," he whispered. Evelyn tried to hold the family together that evening, making dinner, keeping lights bright, pretending they were fine. But silence stalked them. Liam barely spoke, lost in the flicker of his phone where he'd looped the video, frame by frame, searching for something. Proof? Meaning? Control. Evelyn found him later at the window, whispering, "It's not gone." She followed his gaze. Across the field, under the dusky horizon, something moved against the tree line. Too tall for a man, too thin for an animal. Its arms hung low, swaying slightly with each slow, deliberate step toward the house. Evelyn shut the curtains. "Don't look," she said, her voice trembling. But behind her, Liam's reflection lingered in the glass, still staring through it, as though he couldn't stop. That night, the house lost power. The refrigerator's hum died, the clocks froze, and the air grew thick with that same metallic scent from the roof. Michael lit candles, their flames bending subtly toward the ceiling as though drawn upward. "Everyone downstairs," he ordered, his voice shaking. In the living room, shadows danced across the walls, forming shapes that seemed too deliberate to be tricks of light. A soft knock echoed above. Once, twice, measured the roof. Evelyn whispered. Liam raised his phone flashlight and pointed it upward, his breath clouding in the suddenly cold air. Then, a sound. Not on the roof, but inside the attic. Footsteps, slow and shifting, followed by the faint scrape of nails against wood. They didn't open the door. Michael held the handle tight, feeling it twitch once, twice, like something breathing on the other side. Then, stillness. The three of them backed away, each step deliberate, their shadows stretching across the walls. Evelyn whispered, "It knows." In the silence that followed, a faint scratching began again. Not above, not behind, but within the walls themselves, tracing their movements as they retreated. When the lights flickered back to life, the attic door stood wide open, swaying gently as if moved by a passing draft. On the top stair, a single object rested, a memory card, clean and dry, reflecting the candlelight. Liam bent down, picked it up, and turned it over. Written on its side in faint, etched letters were 3 words: "Watch the roof." Liam locked himself in his room that night, determined to see what the new memory card contained. The footage began in darkness. No sound, no static, just a faint vibration in the air as if the silence itself were recorded. Then a light appeared, faint and pulsing, revealing the Cross living room. But no one had filmed it. The angle was wrong. Too high, as if the camera hovered near the ceiling, watching. Liam leaned closer, recognizing the room's details. The pattern on the curtains, the mug Evelyn had left on the table. Then, movement. The door opening, his father walking in, unaware. The figure on the footage wasn't Liam, yet the voice that whispered behind the camera was unmistakably his own. "Don't look up," it said. And in the moment, Michael lifted his head. Something long and pale dropped behind him from the ceiling. The footage ended in white light. He called for his parents, voice cracking. Evelyn burst through the door, Michael close behind. "It filmed us," Liam stammered, replaying the footage. But when they looked, the screen showed only static. No voices, no figures, only faint distortions that moved like breathing. Michael's hand landed hard on Liam's shoulder. "That's enough," he said. But his reflection in the dark monitor twitched a moment after his real movement, a fraction too late. Evelyn noticed, her eyes widening as her husband turned to her, unaware. The reflection lingered longer, staring directly at her before catching up. Evelyn reached out to touch the screen, trembling. Her own reflection did not move at all. Then the static on the monitor parted, showing something standing behind them that wasn't there in the room. Michael smashed the monitor with his fist. The screen burst into shards that scattered like rain across the desk. For a moment, silence. Then the speakers, still connected, hissed softly, low, rhythmic, almost like breathing through water. "Unplug it," Evelyn said. Liam yanked the cord, but the sound persisted. It came from the walls this time, threading through the house's wiring, pulsing faintly in every outlet. From the hallway came a faint glow, flickering like an old film projector. They followed it, each step slower than the last. On the far wall, where no light should reach, an image flickered, grainy, unstable, but unmistakable. Their own living room, seen from above, with all 3 of them standing exactly as they were now, watching themselves. The projection shifted suddenly, the image dragging downward as though melting. Now it showed the roof, drenched in rain. The sound of footsteps echoed faintly through the hall, but not from the speakers, from above. Michael's jaw tightened. "No more running," he said, and turned toward the attic ladder. Evelyn grabbed his arm, whispering, "Don't go up there," but he was already climbing. Candle in one hand, hammer in the other. The attic hatch creaked open. Cold air poured down. From below, Evelyn saw only the flicker of candlelight and Michael's shadow, stretching unnaturally long along the rafters. Then the candlelight bent sharply, like wind catching flame, and something whispered his name back in a voice that wasn't his. The hammer fell first, clanging down the stairs, slick with something dark. Evelyn screamed and started upward, but Liam grabbed her hand. "Wait," he said, voice hollow. Above them, the attic floorboards shuddered once, twice, and then something began crawling down the inside of the walls. Its movement deep, wet, and deliberate. Evelyn's tears streaked her face as she whispered Michael's name again, but the voice that answered from above was wrong, hollow and stretched. It repeated her words exactly, the tone perfect but empty. Then, Silence. The attic door slammed shut on its own. When Liam finally dared to open it, there was no sign of his father. Only the camera from the first night, resting in the center of the floor, still recording. Morning brought a sickly silence to the Cross farmhouse. The air was stale, metallic, as if the night had left residue in every corner. Evelyn sat at the kitchen table, gripping Michael's wedding band she'd found on the attic steps. It was bent slightly, as though crushed under pressure. Liam hadn't slept. He kept replaying the attic footage on the recovered camera, but the video showed nothing. Only stillness, the faint shimmer of dust floating in midair. Then, just before the clip ended, Michael appeared. He was standing perfectly still in the far corner of the attic, facing away from the camera. No sound, no movement. Just standing. Liam froze the frame. "He's alive," he whispered, but Evelyn shook her head. "That's not him." Outside, wind tore through the trees, and from the roof came a single slow step. They called the police, though neither truly believed help would come. 2 officers arrived by noon, their cruiser crunching across the gravel drive. Evelyn led them to the attic, her hands trembling. "He was up there," she said. But when the hatch opened, sunlight poured down and revealed nothing but empty boards. One officer stepped inside, scanning with a flashlight. "No sign of forced entry," he muttered. The second officer crouched to inspect the floor, then frowned. "What's this?" In the dust lay footprints, bare adult-sized, circling the attic in uneven patterns. They began at the center and led to the walls, then simply stopped, vanishing, as if the person had walked straight into the wood itself. Evelyn's voice broke. That's where he was standing. Neither officer spoke again. That night, Evelyn couldn't bring herself to enter the bedroom. She slept on the couch, clutching a blanket to her chest, the wedding band digging into her palm. Liam sat at the foot of the stairs, staring toward the dark attic hatch. "He's still here," he whispered. "I can feel it." The house responded with faint, rhythmic tapping, like knuckles against hollow wood, moving from room to room. Evelyn's phone buzzed suddenly on the table. One new video file. She hesitated, then pressed play. The footage was shot from outside, angled toward the house. In it, she saw herself sitting on the couch, motionless, unaware. And there, on the roof above her, something crawled. Long-limbed and slow, dragging a shape that looked almost human by the arm. Lightning flashed, and for a split second she saw Michael's face in the thing's grasp. Eyes open, staring directly into the lens. Evelyn screamed until her throat went raw, but when Liam ran outside, the roof was empty. Rain began to fall, sharp and cold. He circled the house, searching for any trace, footprints, damage, anything. In the mud near the garden, he found a single print. A bare foot, pressed deep, toes splayed, too long to be human. And beside it, faintly etched into the wet soil, were letters M-I-C. Then a jagged smear where the rest had washed away. He backed toward the porch, shivering. "Mom," he whispered. "He's trying to say something." From inside, Evelyn's voice rose, not in fear, but in sudden, breathless relief. "Liam," she called. "Come here. Quickly." When he entered, she was standing by the hallway wall, fingers brushing faint indentations that hadn't been there before. 5 deep marks, like handprints, pressed from inside the plaster. By midnight, the walls pulsed faintly, breathing in and out like a living thing. The lights flickered again, not from the storm, but from something deeper in the house wiring. Evelyn stood in the hallway, whispering Michael's name. Each time she said it, a faint echo repeated from behind the wall, closer each time, like an answering heartbeat. Liam set up the last working camera facing the attic door. "If he's still here," he said softly, "we'll see him." The clock struck 12. The air went still. Then the camera light blinked once, twice, and the door opened on its own. Through the viewfinder, they saw Michael, wet, barefoot, expression blank, standing halfway down the attic stairs. Evelyn ran forward, crying his name, but as she reached him, the image stuttered. In a blink, he was gone. And all that remained was the faint imprint of his feet, leading back up into the dark. Evelyn no longer spoke during the day. She moved through the house like a ghost herself, silent, mechanical, waiting for nightfall. Liam watched her from the kitchen doorway as she taped black cloth over the windows. "It can't see us if we don't look," she muttered, her voice low and hollow. But when dusk fell, the cloth began to move on its own, breathing inward with each gust that wasn't there. Liam sat at the table, the last camera flickering beside him, its battery half dead. From the attic came a low scraping sound, steady, circular, rhythmic, as though something were digging through the roof. Evelyn's whisper rose into the dark. "He's trying to come back." Liam shook his head. That's not him anymore, but even as he said it, a faint light began to seep through the ceiling. Cold, silver, pulsing like a heartbeat. The attic was alive with sound now. Scraping, whispering, the creak of boards shifting under invisible weight. Liam climbed halfway up the ladder, flashlight trembling in his hand. "Mom." "Stay downstairs," he said. But Evelyn followed anyway, eyes glassy with exhaustion. The beam of his light caught the roof's interior. Wooden planks splintered outward, nails bending as something pressed from above. Through the cracks, the night sky pulsed faintly, veins of light spreading like roots. Then came a breath. A long, rattling inhale that shook the insulation loose. A whisper slipped through the boards, threading the air like smoke. "Liam," he froze. Evelyn clutched his arm. The whisper came again, lower now, deeper. His father's voice, pleading, "Help me." And then softly, from within the ceiling itself, came the sound of fingernails clawing their way down. The roof burst open with a crack that split the night in two. Wind and rain tore into the attic, but the rain fell upward, drawn into the light that pulsed where the ceiling used to be. Evelyn and Liam clung to each other, screaming over the roar. From the light emerged a figure. Michael's shape, yes, but wrong, elongated, moving in a rhythm that didn't belong to anything human. His eyes were blank, mouth slack, skin glistening with something between water and ash. "Dad?" Liam cried. The thing's head jerked toward him, bones cracking in its neck, and it began to crawl. Fast, spider-like, down the broken rafters. Evelyn yanked Liam backward, both stumbling as the camera behind them recorded everything, its lens catching only static where Michael's body should have been. They fled downstairs, but the house had changed. The hallways seemed longer, the angles wrong, as if the structure were unfolding from within. The lights flickered violently, casting brief glimpses of movement at every turn. Silhouettes sliding across the ceiling, shadows that didn't match their bodies. Evelyn stumbled into the kitchen and grabbed the camera, screaming, "If it wants to be seen, well, show it." She turned the lens upward, toward the roof. The feed blinked to life. For a moment, all she saw was darkness. And then, dozens of pale hands pressed against the ceiling from the inside, stretching the plaster outward. Liam screamed, "Turn it off!" But the camera's light turned red, then white, then reflected back their own faces, except their reflections were still smiling when they went. The ceiling gave way all at once. The hands retracted, and from the dark hole above, something vast and colorless emerged, featureless except for the shimmer of its skin, like liquid shadow. It filled the space above them, coiling and uncoiling in silence. Evelyn lifted the camera again, desperate, trembling. "What do you want?" she cried. The thing turned, slow and deliberate, its face, or the place where a face should be, splitting into countless thin lines of light. It leaned close to the lens. The house fell silent except for one voice, layered and broken, whispering in many tones. You kept watching. The camera shut off. The light vanished. And when it returned a moment later, only Liam remained, alone in the empty kitchen, staring at the ceiling. As rain fell gently through the open hole above. By morning, the storm had quieted, leaving only the sound of dripping water and the hollow echo of absence. Evelyn was gone. No trace, no footprints, no scream caught on the final frame. Liam wandered through the wreckage of the house, numb, carrying the broken camera against his chest like a relic. Every window was shattered, yet the air inside was still. He found his reflection in the hallway mirror and stared until he realized it wasn't quite mirroring him. His reflection blinked slower, smiled faintly when he did not. He stepped closer, whispering, "Where are they?" The reflection tilted its head, then reached forward, pressing a hand against the inside of the glass. For a heartbeat, Liam saw his mother's face flicker behind it, eyes wide and hollow. Then the mirror darkened, showing only the roof, night returning where day should have been. He tried to leave. The front door opened onto fog, dense, unmoving. A wall of gray that hummed faintly when he spoke. He threw a rock into it and never heard it land. The trees were gone. The road, too. Only the outline of the house remained, faintly illuminated in the mist. He stumbled back inside, heart pounding, and found the television glowing on its own. The screen played footage he hadn't recorded. Grainy shots of the roof, the attic, the living room, looping endlessly. In every clip, the same thing appeared. Liam himself, pacing, glancing upward, whispering. The perspective shifted like unseen cameras watched from every angle. On the final loop, the boy on the screen looked directly into the lens and said, "It's your turn to film now." The image froze. The camera in his hands powered on by itself for hours. Or maybe days. Liam wandered the house filming. Every time he stopped, the camera vibrated faintly, urging him onward. He filmed the empty hallway, the rainwater pooling under the broken roof, the mirror that showed nothing now but endless sky. Each time he reviewed the footage, the images shifted. Sometimes his parents appeared in the background, motionless. Sometimes the walls breathed faintly, expanding with each click of the camera. Then, as night bled into the house again, he heard the first step on the roof. The same slow, dragging stride that had begun it all. "I'm still watching," he whispered into the lens. The step stopped. The silence deepened until it felt alive. Then, from the attic above, a low hum began. A sound like film spinning without an image. When he finally climbed into the attic again, the air was still but heavy, as if time had stopped waiting. The gash in the roof was gone, sealed as though it had never torn. Yet the boards were damp, and faint footprints trailed in circles. In the center lay the old memory cards, arranged neatly in a spiral. Liam crouched, reaching for one, and the moment his fingers brushed it, every card flickered with a brief image. The roof, the attic, the ceiling of his own room, all filmed from above. He lifted the camera and pointed it upward instinctively. For an instant, he saw something crouched just above the ceiling, hands splayed wide, face pressed close to the wood. It smiled, his father's face now, and mouthed a single word: "Continue." The last footage ever recovered from the Cross farmhouse lasts exactly 6 minutes. It begins with Liam setting the camera on the floor, facing the attic hatch. He steps into the frame, looks up, and says softly, "I'm ready." The sound of footsteps begins overhead. Slow, deliberate, circling. The ceiling creaks once, then impossibly a shadow drops through the wood, spreading like ink across the walls. Liam doesn't run. He stares directly into the camera, whispering, "You can't stop watching." His eyes roll upward, following something unseen as the image shakes violently. The recording ends not in static, but in perfect stillness. A single frame of Liam looking skyward, mouth open as if mid-laughter, eyes reflecting the shape of something enormous just above him. Weeks later, the Cross farmhouse stood abandoned. The police investigation stalled. Every tape, every card, every camera they recovered was blank. Except for one. A single file remained, hidden deep in the corrupted data. It had no timestamp, no sound, no metadata at all. When the technician pressed play, the screen showed a static view of the house from above, as if filmed from the air. The roof glistened with moisture beneath a silver moon. Then the image began to move, slowly zooming in toward the attic window. Inside, a faint light flickered, revealing a figure seated in the center of the room. It was Liam, or something wearing his shape. His eyes were glassy, his expression calm. In front of him sat the camera, pointed back at him. The footage looped infinitely, an endless recording of itself, watching itself forever. When investigators entered the house, they found no signs of struggle, only walls stained with damp and ceilings warped by unseen pressure. The attic smelled faintly of iron and rain. In the center of the floor, a camera still blinked red, though its battery had long been dead. On the wall behind it, faint impressions of hands pressed outward from the inside, too many to count. One officer bent close and swore he could hear faint whispering from the plaster. Later, he told no one what it said, but his partner quit the force the next morning without explanation. In the final report, the last line written in pencil read, "The recording does not end when the power is cut." Months passed. The farmhouse was sold, bought cheap by a young couple who thought the story was local superstition. They replaced the roof, painted the walls, and laughed off the warnings of the neighbors. But every night around midnight, the same soft creak began above their heads. Steady, measured, like footsteps pacing. One evening, the husband set up a baby monitor in the attic, intending to catch the culprit. The footage showed nothing at first, only a faint pulse of static. Then, at the 30-second mark, a face appeared in the dark behind the camera. Not monstrous, not warped, just a boy's face, calm and silent, watching. The husband paused the feed, heart hammering. When he looked closer, he saw the reflection of his own bedroom window in the boy's eyes. The couple fled the house the next morning, leaving the monitor behind. A week later, a local journalist retrieved it for a story about the haunted farmhouse. She reviewed the footage in her office, pausing every few frames. In one still, she noticed movement in the background, a faint outline crawling across the roof beams. She zoomed in until the pixels blurred and nearly screamed when she saw it. The same camera from the original Cross tapes, its red light blinking, recording from the corner of her own office wall. She turned around, trembling, but there was nothing there. Only the sound of rain beginning on the roof above her, each drop falling in time with slow, deliberate footsteps. The tape never ends. No matter who plays it, no matter where, the footage continues, each viewer caught in its lens, their image folding into the next frame. Somewhere far from the farmhouse, another copy surfaces every few months, found in thrift shops, online auctions, unmarked boxes. Each begins the same way. A still shot of a roof under rain, a faint creak of footsteps, and a whisper, almost too soft to hear. You kept watching. Some say it's only a story. Others say the recording finds those who listen too long. But if you ever wake to the sound of slow steps pacing above your ceiling, remember, don't look up. And whatever you do, don't press play.